Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiri Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhakta Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So continuing with our discussion on Krishna book, chapter 90, continuing with Prabhupada's purport. Shukdev Goswami then glorifies the Lord as one who is honored by Yaduvar Parishar, the assembly house of the Yadu dynasty, and as a killer of different kinds of demons. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, could have killed all the demons by employing his different material energies, but he wanted to kill them personally, to give them salvation. There was no need of Krishna's coming to this material world to kill the simply by his willing. Many hundreds, thousands of demons could have been killed without his personal endeavor. Actually, he descended for his pure devotees to play as a child with Mother Yashoda and Nand Maharaj, and to give pleasure to the inhabitants of Dwarka. By killing the demons and giving protection to the devotees, Lord Krishna established a real religious principle, which is simply love of God. By following the factual religious principle of love of God, even the living entities known as Sthirachar. Sthirachar means those who don't move, stay placed at one place, and Char is those who move. So were also delivered of all material contamination and transferred to the spiritual kingdom. Sthir means the trees and plants which cannot move, and Char means the moving animals, especially the cows. When Krishna was present, he delivered all the trees, monkeys, and other plants and animals also who happened to see him and serve him, both in Vrindavan and in Dwarka. And of course, in Mathura also. Lord Krishna is especially glorified for giving pleasure to the gopis and the queens of Dwarka. Shukdev Goswami glorifies Lord Krishna for his enchanting smile, by which he enchanted not only the gopis of Vrindavan, but also the queens of Dwarka. The exact words connection are Vardhyam Kama Devam. In Vrindavan as the boyfriends of many gopis, and in Dwarka as the husband of many queens, Krishna increased their lusty desires to enjoy with them. For God realization or self-realization, one generally has to undergo severe austerities and penances for many, many thousands of years. And then it may be possible to realize God. But the gopis and queens of Dwarka, simply by enhancing their lusty desires to enjoy Krishna as a boyfriend or husband, received the highest type of salvation. But obviously, to come to the position of gopis or queens, obviously they had done tons and tons of bhakti. This behavior of Lord Krishna with the gopis and queens is unique in the history of self-realization. Usually people understand that for self-realization, one has to go to the forest or mountains and undergo severe austerities and penances. But the gopis and the queens, simply by being attached to Krishna in conjugal love and enjoying his company in a so-called sensuous life full of luxury and opulence, achieved the highest salvation, which is impossible to achieve even for great sages and saintly persons. Similarly, demons such as Kansa, Dantavakra, Shishupal, who all treated Krishna as an enemy, also got the highest benefit of being transferred to the spiritual world. So here Prabhupada says about the gopis, he says, being attached to Krishna in conjugal love and enjoying his company, in so-called sensuous life, so-called, it's apparent. So that's why we have to understand through acharyas what exactly it was. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasadeva offered his respectful obeisances to the Supreme Truth, Vasudeva Krishna. After that, he taught his son, Shukdev Goswami, to preach Srimad Bhagavatam. It is in this connection that Goswami glorifies the Lord with the word Jayati. Following in the footsteps of Srila Vyasadeva, Shukdev Goswami and all the acharyas in disciplic succession, the whole population of the world should glorify Lord Krishna. And for their best interest, they should take to this Krishna consciousness movement. This process is easy and helpful. It is simply to chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya has therefore recommended that one be callous to the material ups and downs. Material life is temporary, and so the ups and downs of life may come and go. When they come, one should be as tolerant as a tree and as humble and meek as the straw in the street. But certainly he must engage himself in Krishna consciousness by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. So the main thing is material life, everything, whether good, bad, whatever, it's temporary. It's not permanent. So one has to strive for the permanent, eternal life in spiritual world. The transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna are so powerful that simply by hearing, reading, and memorizing this book, Krishna, one is sure to be transferred to the spiritual world, which is ordinarily very difficult to achieve. And that's why Prabhupada said every night we should read Krishna book, one chapter before we go to sleep. Of course, 87 chapter is very long, and so are 88 and 90. But anyway, whatever we can read. The description of the pastimes of Lord Krishna is so attractive that it automatically gives us an impetus to study repeatedly. And the more we study the pastimes of the Lord, the more we become attached to him. This very attachment to Krishna makes one eligible to be transferred to his abode, Golok, Vrindavan. As we have learned from the previous chapter, to cross over the material world is to cross over the stringent laws of material nature. The stringent laws of material nature cannot check the progress of one who is attached by the spiritual nature. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita by the Lord himself. Although the stringent laws of material nature are very difficult to overcome, one who surrenders unto the Lord can very easily cross over the nations. There is no influence of material nature in the spiritual world. As we have learned from the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the ruling power of the demigods and the influential nature are conspicuous by their absence in the spiritual world. Conspicuous means one can notice it very, very significantly, because the demigods and the influence of material nature, they're just absent over there in the spiritual world. Demigods are there. All the demigods are there, but in a way to serve Krishna and Radharani in their pastimes, not to rule over the spiritual world. They like the rule over here. Srila Shukdev Goswami has therefore advised Maharaj Parikshit in the beginning of the second canto that every conditioned soul should engage himself in hearing and chanting the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Srila Shukdev Goswami also informed King Parikshit that previously many other kings and emperors went to the jungle to prosecute severe austerities and penances in order to go back home, back to Godhead. In India, it is still a practice that many advanced transcendentalists give up their family lives and go to Vrindavan to live there alone and completely engage in hearing and chanting the holy pastimes of the Lord. This system is recommended in Srimad Bhagavatam, and the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan followed it. But at the present moment, many karmis and pseudo-devotees have overcrowded the holy place of Vrindavan just to imitate this process recommended by Shukdev Goswami. So Shukdev Goswami recommended everybody should engage in hearing and chanting. But as Prabhupada says, many pseudo devotees and karmis, they are there now to make money. Of course, they are in Vrindavan, so at least some effect will be there. But purpose of going to Vrindavan is not to make money, not to do business. And then that land of Vrindavan, whole Braj Bhumi, Radharani is Vrindavaneshwari. And if we think we can make money off of Radharani's land, that's simply nonsense. We should be there to serve her, serve Brajvasis. Whole purpose of going to Braj is we want to get away from material consciousness. Whatever we are doing in Delhi, Bombay, and get away from that. That's the whole purpose. But as Prabhupada said, not everybody has the same purpose. It is said that many kings and emperors formerly went to the forest for this purpose, but Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur does not recommend that one take up this solitary life in Vrindavan prematurely. One who prematurely goes to Vrindavan to live in pursuance of the instructions of Shukdev Goswami again falls victim to Maya, even while residing in Vrindavan. To check such unauthorized residence in Vrindavan, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has sung a nice song in this connection, the purport of which is as follows. My dear mind, why are you so proud of being a Vaishnava? Your solitary chanting of the holy name of the Lord is based on a desire for cheap popularity, and therefore your chanting is only a pretension. Such an ambition for a cheap reputation may be compared to the stool of a hog, because such popularity is another extension of the influence of Maya. Stool of a hog. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I mean, he was even, we think Prabhupada is heavy in his commentaries. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was much heavier. Stool of a hog. Ambition for reputation. He's comparing that to stool of a hog. What does a hog eat? He eats a stool only. He doesn't eat wonderful preparations, halwa and puri and whatever. He eats hog. He eats stool. And when he passes stool by eating stool, so how worthless and how stinky that must be. So that's what Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj is comparing to our ambition for cheap reputation. People should know me as a very big chanter or a very big devotee, a very pure devotee, and I have done so much for Prabhupada. This cheap reputation. Whoever has to know, Prabhupada has to know, Krishna has to know, they know. We don't have to tell them anything. We don't have to resort to it. And on top of it, when we say, oh, this I'm doing as a service to Prabhupada, so that I can engage more and more people in the service of Krishna. Again, we are just the tools, we are just the servants of Krishna, servants of Prabhupada. If anybody's heart has to be transformed, it's going to be done by them, not by us. Should not try to even take the credit. That's why every time we say, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to him only, none to us. We have to understand. And then if somebody wants to live in Vrindavan, and that mentality, as Prabhupada said, he might fall again back in Maya. One may go to Vrindavan for cheap popularity, and instead of being absorbed in Krishna consciousness, one may always think of money and women, which are simply temporary resources of happiness. It is better that one engages whatever money and women he may have in his possession in the service of the Lord, because sense enjoyment is for the conditioned. Because sense enjoyment is not for the conditioned soul. Because they should be used, everything should be used for the service of. The master of the senses is Rishikesh, Lord Krishna. Therefore, the senses should always be engaged in his service. As for material reputation, there were many demons like Ravan who wanted to go against the laws of material nature, but they all failed. One should therefore not take to the demoniac activity of claiming to be a Vaishnava just for false prestige, without performing service to the Lord. But when one engages oneself in the devotional service of the Lord, automatically the Vaishnava reputation comes to him. Krishna has 6 opulences in full, right? Strength, knowledge, name, fame, strength, knowledge, fame, renunciation, and Aishwarya, opulence, and strength. Strength, I would call it. Strength, knowledge, fame, renunciation.
Wealth.
Wealth, yeah. But there's one more. I'm forgetting that somehow. Okay, so when one becomes a devotee of Krishna, his opulences also show up in the devotee. Ultimately, soul is full of those opulences. But Krishna just gives those in the way he wants to give, so the devotee doesn't become very proud. Now, the devotee thinks, no, I should have strength, or I should have knowledge, I should have fame. If the desire is there, Krishna might fulfill it, but that would be not good for us. Let Krishna give us whatever he wants. If he wants to give us renunciation, let him give us. The point is, we should not be proud of anything that we have. Krishna says, Yad Yad Vibhuti Mata Sattvam Shri Madhurjitam. Whatever opulence you see in the material world is but a spark of my splendor. Just a spark. And we get the even spark of that spark. And we cannot handle that opulence. We become proud. Krishna, he is a source. He has all that splendor in full. That is Krishna. So that's what Prabhupada said. Automatically, Vaishnava reputation comes to him. There is no need to be envious of the devotees who are engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord. We have practical experience of being advised by the so-called Babajis in Vrindavan that there is no need to preach and that it is better to live in Vrindavan in a solitary place and chant the holy name. Such Babajis do not know that if one is engaged in preaching or in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the good reputation of a preacher automatically follows one. One should not therefore prematurely give up the honest life of a householder to lead a life of debauchery in Vrindavan. Srila Shukdev Goswami's recommendation to leave home and go to the forest in search of Krishna is not for immature persons. Maharaj Parikshit was mature, even in his householder life or from the very beginning of his life. He worshipped Lord Krishna's Murti. In his childhood, he worshipped the deity of Lord Krishna, and later, although he was a householder, he was always detached. And therefore, when he got the notice of his death, he immediately gave up all household life and sat down on the bank of the Ganges to hear Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of devotees. So premature going to Vrindavan, one should avoid. Well, we can always go and but come back. And whenever we are ready, Krishna will make the arrangements. But again, when we go to Vrindavan, whether on a short trip, whether on a long trip, whether to live there permanently, one thing should be clear in our mind that it's a land of Radharani. And all we have to do is serve. Serve that land, serve the devotees there, serve the Brajavasis, serve every living entity over there. Ant or insects or animals, everybody. We should be serving them. And if we cannot serve, at least let's not offend them. So then in the right mode, we would be able to even enter Vrindavan. And then, as Prabhupada says, pseudo devotees. So what happens is when devotees go to Vrindavan with a mood, different mood, not in the mood of service, then the real Vrindavan also doesn't show up. They only get the darshan. Prabhupada explained something else. They only get the darshan of Maya Vrindavan. Because our mentality is like that. Prabhupada said when he was with his disciples in Vrindavan, he was like, when I first came here, then he was thinking that he was telling a disciple that I was thinking, when is Krishna going to come out from behind this tree or that tree? That was his vision. That was his consciousness. We don't have that. When we go to Vrindavan, we try to find faults. With Vrindavan, with Vrajavasis, with the devotees, with the sadhus, with everybody else. And then we commit offenses. So we got to be very, very careful. So anyway, by mercy of Prabhupada, mercy of Krishna, today we completed the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 90th chapter of Krishna, summary description of Lord Krishna's pastime. So we completed the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Hari Bol. So tomorrow we'll start the 11th canto. So we'll see anybody has any questions or comments. Yeah, the sixth opulence was beauty. That was forgetting.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I have one question. Like sometimes we are not able to solve our material problem, so we take refuge of bhakti. Or so, Prabhuji, is it okay or is it escapism?
No, it's not asking. Why? We are taking shelter of Krishna's name. This is the right way to solve the problems. To ask Krishna for his help, for his direction, guidance, or if he can take care of that problem. So this is okay. It's the beginning of process of surrender.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Okay. Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita, Artho Jigyasur Artharthi Jnani Chavarat Visha. There means these four kind of people surrender unto me. Of course, they come with the material mentality, but they all are pious, he says. It's not the best, but well, with our mentality, what else we can do? Okay. So, we'll stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.